This is Dimitri Lascaris for The Real News at COP22 in Marrakesh, Morocco. I'm here today with Shane Rattenberry, who is a member of the legislature of the Australian Capital Territory and the Minister of the Environment for the ACT. Also, and notably, the first Green Speaker of any legislative assembly in the world. Thank you very much for joining us today, Shane.
It's good to see you.
So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the Australian government, and I'm talking here about the federal government's climate policies to date. What is your assessment as the Environment Minister of the ACT of those policies?
Well, the Australian government has traditionally in these international climate fora been one of the real laggards, been lined up with Canada, the United States as the countries who have really slowed down progress in contrast to some of the more ambitious countries. So it's been very frustrating, and we continue to see that. Our current federal Conservative government actually took away the carbon tax that we'd put in place at a national level. They are in the process of approving large numbers of new fossil fuel developments. Coal mines are proceeding apace in Australia. So really, at a national level, we are not seeing a positive environment for serious action on climate change.
And do you think that the election of somebody in the United States who can, I think, fairly be described as a climate change denialist is going to embolden the Australian government to be even more obstructionist in terms of dealing with the climate crisis?
I fear that will be the case. There are Conservative politicians in Australia who are rejoicing at the election of Donald Trump. We've got a number of members of federal parliament who are quite influential, who are openly climate skeptics, and that is having a significant influence on our federal climate policy at the expense of the planet.
Now, I understand that despite the difficulties the climate justice movement has confronted in Australia under the Conservative government, at the state level, or I guess you could also call it the municipal level, the Australian Capital Territory, you've managed to do some quite remarkable things in terms of confronting the climate crisis. Can you sort of explain to us what you're doing?
And we are seeing that across Australia at a local level action is taking place because many of the activists have got so frustrated by the federal government they've sort of put their energy into making things happen locally. And certainly in the ACT, where I come from, we have set a very ambitious climate reduction target of 40% reduction on our 1990 levels by 2020. That's in legislation. That came about when the Green Party won the balance of power in our parliament and we negotiated this outcome to form government. And then to deliver that, we have put in place a 100% renewable electricity target by 2020. And we are well on our way to achieving that. We have actually signed all of the contracts. We've purchased all of the power, and the wind turbines and the solar farms are now being constructed. We will, over the next couple of years, ramp up our supply of renewable electricity extremely quickly, such that by 2020 we will be getting 100% of our power from clean sources.
And has anybody in the Conservative government federally or the Conservative end of the political spectrum in Australia raised questions about the legality about all of this in terms of the jurisdiction of the ACT to accomplish those impressive and ambitious goals?
Certainly not from a legal point of view. As a territory government, we have all of the legal power to do this. We are responsible for the electricity network, for the grid. We are responsible for purchasing the power. We sit inside a national energy market, but within that we are free to operate as we please. We set the prices for electricity, so all of those things are within our control. Where the criticism, I suppose, has come from has been about cost. Certainly some of the Conservative politicians have challenged the cost of doing this, but through the very successful reverse auctions that we've run to buy this power, we have got it at quite competitive prices. Ironically, because the federal government is doing nothing, the wind industry has been desperate to sell. And so we've been in a buyer's market. We've got the lowest wind prices ever achieved in Australia. And we have locked it in at 20-year contracts, which provides certainty to industry, but also means we get certainty for our consumers. And so our consumers will have fixed electricity prices for the next 20 years, which is a great outcome for our citizens, as well as a great environmental outcome.
And globally outside of Australia, since the Paris Accord was concluded in December of last year, have you seen promising indications from other subnational governments outside of the country?
I think that's been one of the real stories of Marrakesh, is the role of subnational governments, of cities, getting on with ambitious climate action. There is a lot of momentum out there. People understand the science. They know we need to get serious. And many have been frustrated by their national governments. And there is a real movement on there. We have the Under 2 MOU, we have ICLEI, we have the States and Regions Alliance. There is a whole series of groups who are doing quite amazing things at that subnational level. And what I've found very interesting is that a lot of them have come from Canada, the United States and Australia, those countries that have been laggards at a national level, that frustration is borne out in local action.
Thank you very much for joining us today, and I wish you the best of luck in achieving your ambitious targets in the ACT.
Thank you very much.
And this is Dimitri Lascaris for The Real News in Marrakesh, Morocco.